Welcome to Hospitality Meets with me, Phil Street, where each week we take a light-hearted look into the stories and individuals that make up the wonderful world of hospitality. Today's guest is Grant Campbell, General Manager of the newly opened Nobu Hotel London, Portman Square. Coming up on today's show, Grant sets the tone for his career journey.
A lot of stories to tell, but not too many stories I can share, unfortunately.
Phil finds a potential future career. God, I'm just a walking merch board today with these quotes. And Grant reveals that the last year may have been reasonably tough.
Do I want to do another opening in a pandemic? I'd probably say no.
All that and so much more as Grant chats us through his story and journey to date, as well as giving us some great insight into what opening a high-profile hotel through a pandemic looks like. Grant really has built a fabulous career so far, having worked in some wonderful places, and there's some really valuable insight on how to build a successful career throughout our chat. A huge thank you to Grant for his time. Don't forget, we launch a brand new episode each week telling the amazing and always amusing stories from hospitality, so please remember to like, subscribe and review on whatever platform you're listening. Enjoy! Hello and welcome to the next episode of Hospitality Meets with me, Phil Street. Today, we're back in hotels, and I am delighted to welcome the General Manager of one of London's highest profile openings in the last 12 months, that being the Nobu Hotel London, Portman Square. So it gives me huge pleasure to welcome Grant Campbell to the show.
Thank you, Phil. Great to be on the show. Super opportunity. I know we've been trying to catch up for a little while, but it's been a bit of a crazy year. So good to speak with you. And,
has it?
Yeah, I know it's been a little bit fast. A few things going on, but it's been it's been a challenging, but I think overall we're starting to see a bit of light and see a bit of reward after what has been a bit of a difficult time.
Yeah, I mean, you opened a hotel and dealt with a pandemic. I don't suppose you moved house at the same time, did you?
No, never did any of the classic scenarios during that time, which I think is fortunate. I think it would have been a little bit too much. I'll be honest. It was not a straightforward period to try and work your way through what was not an easy time for even a stabilized business, but for an opening business which was going through a construction period. So it was pretty difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll come on to that. We'll talk about that in the context of your journey, I guess. But where are you basing yourself today?
Down in the office, where it's a little bit quieter at the moment. Everybody's upstairs bustling around, looking after the guests that we have in house already. So
yeah,
we've picked up quite nicely since the August break has finished. So yeah, enjoying the late business burst.
Yeah, brilliant. Yes, all the indications are, and I'm touching wood as I say this, are that things are moving in the right direction. But I think we all have a little bit, one eye just on what's going on elsewhere as well, just to keep things in check.
Yeah, agreed. Completely agreed.
Great stuff. Okay, so you've made your way to general manager of a really stunning hotel, but obviously there's a whole journey behind that as to how you ended up there. So take us all the way back to the beginning of your career. How did you get into hospitality in the first place?
It was never an intended career. I think I kind of fell into it through, by being involved in it, I suppose. My family were always great in home entertainers. My father was exceptionally particular about getting everything set up for entertainment or hosting events, whether they be at home or in other places. So you kind of had a bit of a rub-off effect from there. He even ran a pizza restaurant when he was a bit younger. So there was a bit of a hospitality industry thing within the family.
Yeah.
Went through school and, it's kind of like the classic hotelier story. Didn't really know what I was going to do. So my father, he decided to send me off. And I ended up working in a kitchen at a kibbutz in Israel, which was hard work, from one minute finishing school to the next minute you're washing dishes at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's quite a shake to the system, but it actually got me going, and I started to see a little bit of interest in what this was about, and learned a little bit there, a little bit of kitchen work there as well. Started to get a bit of a love affair with chefing, which was my first kind of interest into the industry, and
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
yeah, I know, kind of a bit of a, but I did a bit of a curveball. I did some cooking in America at a summer camp, so quite, not fine dining stuff, but
Mm,
learning basics and principles of batch cooking and mass cooking and that kind of thing at quite a young age.
yeah,
And then decided that that's what I wanted to do. So I ended up applying to be a chef, and then was, in those days where, the, the chefing career wasn't seen as that as this leading light and kind of career path, where everybody was really being successful in. And I was kind of convinced to go into management and did a sidestep across. Of course, now the chefs have done really, really well for themselves, and they're actually super role models for our industry. Guys
yeah,
like Tom Kerridge and Jamie and so on and so forth.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
they essentially are the beacons for people getting into our industry to a degree. And so I did chef management or hotel management, sorry, and that was back in Durban in South Africa at the Royal Hotel, a classic learning hotel, where you learn hard and learn fast. You got to keep going.
Right.
Uh, was accepted into a graduate program with Hilton after that, and worked at both the Hilton properties in Durban and in Johannesburg, and then was transferred across to the Langham Hotel all the way back in 2002, and was there for a period of time, and worked through a few other hotels or I've been in London since then.
Yeah,
Probably the most significant shift in my career was stepping across to join the City Inn Hotel Group, which then subsequently became the Mint Hotel Group. A lot of learning there, a super bunch of leaders and people within that company. Amazing opportunities to be involved in significant openings around the country and internationally in Amsterdam. And really nice, big properties with a lot of design and guest interfaces, which were, pretty much market leading for the style of properties at those times.
I was going to say they did pioneer a kind of a change in focus.
Correct. Yeah.
Literally just a case of put yourself in the shoes of
Of the guests.
a
Yeah.
a business traveler, and what do they want, and then design a bedroom around it. That's basically what it felt like.
I mean, completely. I mean, I think David, who was the CEO of the company, and we were one of the first hotels to offer free Wi-Fi. Not just,
Yeah,
and it sounds like such a scandalous thing to say it, but it was just seen as that it's a required amenity. It's not something that we should be charging for. It shouldn't be something that we should be penalizing our guests to have.
mm,
So those are all these things that's just one example. Putting interfaceable computer TVs into the room so guests can use those. There was a lot, and those are just two small things amongst a whole ream of things that were in the hotels. And then being involved in, at a senior level, working with the senior team there with regards to the reinvestment and eventual buyout, and then rebranding those properties, or one of the properties in Tower of London to DoubleTree, working with Hilton to do that. So I was pretty much with them as a company and as a base for almost 10 years. And then,
yeah. I think a lot of people stayed for a long time, which tells you everything you need to know about the culture of the company.
correct, yeah. And I think, I can talk about that a bit more in terms of the leaders that you work with there.
Mm,
They were very consistent, good listeners, and always gave you honest feedback. Sometimes you didn't like the feedback, which was,
yeah,
you laugh about it later on, but there's a lot of merit in that, taking that forward, so because it helps you improve and helps you get better, so.
mm,
They were a great company to work for and very good to the team that they had with them.
yeah,
So I worked with them and then worked at DoubleTree Tower of London for a period of time, and did the rebranding there, which is a fantastic opportunity. A significant property with a large room count, really successful financially and guest satisfaction wise. And I got to a point where I decided at a stage that I wanted to try a different part of the industry, and
right,
felt that I wanted to get a little bit more closer to the guest, and something a little bit smaller and a little bit more engaging from a guest perspective and the service, and decided to try something from the lifestyle world. and I had a fantastic opportunity to join Sanderson Hotel as hotel manager, and was eventually promoted there to general manager. It was as one of the leading and initial lifestyle boutique hotels in the world. It created a significant impact on my service style and our creativity levels that we needed to have to function within the hospitality world.
Right.
It was a super fun place to be. Loads of things. The guests were amazing. The team, they were incredible, and we had a lot of fun working there, and a lot of stories to tell, but not too many stories I can share, unfortunately.
Isn't that always the way? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a classic kind of place where the secrets will go down to the grave, kind of thing, and
Yeah.
possibly be shared post mortem kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, a super fun place to work and be involved in.
It was kind of one of the first truly lifestyle hotels, wasn't it, in London when it hit the scene?
Yeah, it was. I think between Sanderson's and St Martin's Lane, they certainly set a lot of standards on what hospitality could be. I think to a
Yeah.
degree, really breaking the mold a little bit from in the London hotels. I remember going to Sanderson when I first came to London back in 02, 03, and enjoying the bar and enjoying the environment and that kind of thing. After I'd finished shift just around the corner at the Langham kind of thing. So it was a super fun place to be. So when that opportunity came along to join the property, it was kind of you almost kind of going to your favorite place to go kind of thing. So it was just quite an easy shift to make.
Yeah, and it's always one of the most interesting arrivals, isn't it? Because of the that couch. I can't call it a couch. The sofa.
Yeah, I think Jan Schroger, he had a strong view on sense of arrival into properties, and I think it was
Yeah.
important to him that regardless of which property you walked in within Morgan's, that there was always something special about it. So Sanderson had the red lip sofa. At St Martin's Lane, you had the catwalk. If you go to the other properties such as Hudson in New York, you had the fantastic green escalator as you went up to the front of house. The Delano was, all the wafting curtains and the big columns and all that kind of thing. And you could carry on. And there was always something unique about it that gave you a strong sense of arrival, which
Yeah.
helped you to decompress into the environment and the scene that was being set. So it was really important from a design point of view.
Yeah, and also it does as a guest as you arrive, you just go, well, this is a bit different,
Exactly.
um,
Yeah,
and it puts you. I just think that puts you in a good mood straight away.
it does. Yeah. And look, I mean, we had a lot of people just walking in to come and have a look and walk around, which for me
Yep.
was super because, it always starts with a small interest and then eventually you have somebody sitting down who's come for a look just to have a drink or afternoon tea or eventually coming to stay, which was great.
Yeah, absolutely. How was the jump from going what from the outside looking in looks like a large corporate hotel,
Yeah,
like the DoubleTree into lifestyle? How did you find that change?
it was interesting.
Yeah.
And I put parentheses around the word interesting because there was for me the change was not so much obviously the financials and strategic and all that kind of stuff was okay because you have the learnings that I've had through the two companies previous were strong in those areas. I think the learning for me was allowing others, because I'd been so involved in the leadership process through the other hotels, that people were looking to you to make the call on a lot of things, but and to be the direction for how you wanted to manage things. I had to take a step back and listen to how they were managing things
Yeah.
and really learn learn the process and learn the style, what they were going about, and then how to affect the service standard that they were trying to do, and allow them to be the leaders in that respect. And that was one of the challenges that I had to go through. I mean, because it's very
Mm.
easy to take, if you're coming from a very corporate hotel that had a lot of process, was large, was high volume, is how do you not over standardize things too much if that
Right.
makes sense. And I think
Yeah, yeah.
that's where, that was one of the big steps that I had to take, especially in the first 3, 4, even 6 months. I think, I think when I had a catch up with some of my HODs at one stage. I said, guys, it's taken me 6 months to understand the service here properly.
Mm.
Which is quite a long time. But I think, you've got to allow yourself the opportunity to really reflect through that period. You can't just assume that you know everything, because there's always going to be another little curveball that's going to come out of the woodwork. So
Yeah, I
uh,
think that's a fantastic lesson actually, because there's a lot of leaders in inverted commas that would move from one business to another and just try to imprint themselves on to a way of doing things. But actually, the greatest leaders, when they're changing environments, take that moment to reflect. And okay, so you're coming in because you've got skill, no question about that. But it is also about it is an adaptation of the property style that you're in. You're not going to know everything straight away. You don't know where the strengths and weaknesses are in the team, so there's no point in coming in like a bull in a china shop.
yeah, and I think, that if to say things, things, don't fix what isn't broken, kind of thing. And I'm very cautious to use that statement, because there's always things that can be improved and changed. But
Yeah,
the point I'm trying to make about this is that the service there was actually really, really good. This,
yeah,
and it was backed up by the metrics. So, it wasn't even like I could walk around and say, yeah, but your service scores are not great. You need to change this. So service was great. Conversion was pretty good. There were some things that I could impact relatively quickly, but actually, for me, it wasn't about change because it was negative. It was more about it change because of improvement to make it better.
yeah,
And sometimes to do that, you really need to hone in on what you can impact to make better, and that sometimes takes a little bit longer. The low hanging fruit principle. It's easy to walk in and fix low hanging fruit. It's harder to pick the right bunch at the top.
yeah,
So you've got to work a bit harder, on that element. And you can only do it once you've got all the information. So yeah, I
yeah,
mean, in fairness, it was a bit of a shift, but I think, it's definitely an industry that has grown on me, a part of the industry that has grown on me, and I feel super comfortable in it now. And for me, when I'm recruiting or I have new team joining me that have come from a slightly more traditional slash corporate background, I can empathize with them quite strongly, because I can see that itch that they have with certain things
yeah,
that they want to scratch, and it gets quite, you can kind of just say to them, relax. This is how we're going to go about it. You've got to kind of change your communication method. We'll get there, and you'll be able to do what you want to do. But there's a style and a way you can do it that keeps everybody happy through that process.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's all about your ability as a leader to see something in someone
Yeah.
that isn't necessarily represented in what's down on a CV.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. I mean, it's that ability to kind of adapt to different working environments. And I think that's
Yeah,
becoming, that resilience factor is becoming a core need at the moment, especially with the current market we're in and potentially heading into.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And I guess what certainly you definitely found your feet quickly, because yeah, actually in the grand scheme of things, you were promoted to GM fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think, you know, I was fortunate and lucky. To there was a bit of change in the structural organization within the business, to one degree,
Yeah,
which helped that progression. And I was very fortunate to have that opportunity given to me. So yeah, grateful to everybody involved in that. And again, I was supported through that opportunity quite well by others within the business. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was definitely, it felt like a step up in the same breath, because even though, the structure, it was difficult to explain, but at the time the structure was essentially the same, but actually I did feel a step up in accountability and responsibility, even in effect what could have been seen as a title change at the time.
right. No, and you had the reins, I suppose, to this beautiful property. Actually, I've had a great experience at the Sanderson. I did the Mad Hatter's tea,
Oh yeah.
uh, which is just, my wife's an afternoon tea aficionado, and that was number one on the list for a very, very long time. We checked that off a few years ago, but yeah, that was a cracking experience.
Tremendous. I mean, it's such a tremendous part of the hotel. It did so well from all the way back in, I think, 2010 when it was launched, all the way up to, even before unfortunately the pandemic struck. It was exceptionally successful. Went through a couple of repositionings, and I had a great
Yeah,
opportunity to be involved in one of those. And we had a tremendous marketing and food and beverage team that reworked it to bring it forward a little bit. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we had so many loyal guests and so many return and regular guests come and join us for tea. It was definitely a very successful part of the hotel.
yeah. I just think that there's definitely a time and a place for a classic afternoon tea, but there's also definitely a time and a place for massive innovation in that space. And it was hugely playful and innovative and an experience. And and ultimately that's the objective, isn't it? Is to give people an experience.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I know. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hopefully it'll be back soon. Hope, fingers crossed.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So you were at the Sanderson for how long in the end?
I think it was just about five years,
Right?
coming up to 6 years.
Yeah.
So a fair stretch of time. And then essentially I was offered the opportunity to join London Regional Hotels, but as the opening general manager for Nobu Portman Square. So,
Yeah. I can't see how that was appealing.
well,
I mean,
it's kind of one of those things, you kind of, one of my, a bit of guidance that I was given by a mentor of mine was like, what's your bullseye? What are you trying to achieve, Grant? What do you want to be and where do you want to go?
yeah,
And for a long time in my life, I always wanted to be a general manager in a five-star hotel in London, and I had achieved that at Sanderson. So you kind of have to reassess yourself and go, right, well, what's next on the list? Where do you
yeah,
go? What do you want to do next? And it's a tough one to do because you got to look for a challenge, or would you want something bigger? And doing an opening was, as a general man, I'd been involved in other openings in different levels before, but doing
yeah,
an opening as a general manager was definitely something that I wanted to do, and having the opportunity to do it in London with a super brand such as Nobu at a wonderful property was a fantastic opportunity that I couldn't avoid
yeah.
to miss. So
Yeah, no, I absolutely get it 100%. And I think as well. I mean, it's almost all roads lead here to this for you because it does play. It's still lifestyle in its approach, but it's the new opening. It's that big tick off. But yeah, I'm guessing you also didn't have on your list that you tick off a new opening in a pandemic,
no, look, I think if I had to say, do I want to do another opening in a pandemic, I'd probably say no.
Yeah,
And
really.
quite adamantly. It's there's the I started in February, and you're kind of going through getting to grips with the whole project kind of thing, and learning the team, going through your pre-opening plan and your
Yeah,
Gantt charts coming out of your ears, and budgets and financials and recruitment and opening strategies, and you're doing all the normal pre-opening stuff, and then
yeah,
you have this horrible rumbling coming through at the end of February where there's something going on internationally, and it gets a little bit more local, and within from the beginning, we were all at an offsite office, and we were looking to move onto property in our offices, which were just about to be finished, and you could kind of feel that there was going to be a big decision made, and it was coming,
mm,
and they made the call that we were going to be, all the businesses would have to be shut down, and the lockdown was going to come into effect. So we made a very quick decision to pull everything out of our temporary offices and relocate them into the hotel offices, which was a mad dash. Pretty much the pre-opening team just walking things down the
grab laptops and go.
yeah, laptops, computers, like it looked like a procession of people just walking things up and down the road kind of thing. So,
Right.
but it was the right call in the end, because within the next 24 hours we were in in a full lockdown, which was quite frightening and terrifying at the time, because it's not something that anybody's been into before.
No.
And obviously, with all the communication at the time that was coming out, governmentally, in the newspapers, and you're trying to filter through all the noise to find out exactly what this all means to everybody, and then how long is it going to be? The classic joke with all the GMs is, how many forecasts have you done in the last year? I think it's my answer is I'm busy doing the next one. So
Yeah.
almost an uncountable amount of trying to predict of what's going on. Yeah, so it was a super challenging time, and at the same time working with the construction guys, and trying to figure out how we finish everything off whilst they're trying to figure everything out, because
Yeah.
they've got their own complications with logistics and supply chains, and getting suppliers to deliver what we've ordered. You remember things like, we ran out of things like plaster and cement and white paint. Carpet suppliers were not responding. All this kind of thing. It was a kind of like it was a really challenging time. You just didn't know when you were going to get anything, or
Yeah.
what would be possible. So it was a phenomenal amount of work and achievement to get where we were by December, I think. Because taking everything into consideration.
Yeah, actually, when you put it like that, for sure. What was the original projected opening date?
So we were looking to open for April, from an F&B kind of perspective, but then June as a hotel side. So we
Right.
effectively had to push back quite significantly because of that. So
Yeah.
it was, and then we had to re-strategize how we did the project so that we could get some level of completion within the building. And the one area that we decided to delay because of the environmental factors of travel, corporate travel, business, and that kind of thing, was our event space. So our ballroom and our event space, we delayed so that we could complete the areas that we felt were more important to our guests that were actually coming into the hotel at the time, which is mostly leisure and domestic. So we finished off our food and beverage spaces, our fitness and wellness, and our bedrooms. So
Yeah.
and our event space is actually just completed this week, which is great. We have our first event tomorrow, which
Oh, fabulous.
for recording, which is the 3rd of September, which is super exciting. So we're pretty much all good to go. From a normal, hopefully for a relatively, how can I say, normal kind of trading, which is kind of starting to come back a little bit now. I'm using lots of tentative words because I think that's the unfortunate feeling that I think we're all still a little bit in at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's inevitable, isn't it? And that's going to be with us probably for a while yet.
Yeah.
Especially as we head into autumn, winter. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
You can't really second guess it anymore, can you? You've just got to go with the flow.
Correct. Yeah. And it's fast. I mean, the business pace has been, from last week, we've definitely felt a large impetus of inquiry, of impact, or of guests approaching us for information. Events bookers have been inquiring with us, groups, etc. And the lead time windows have, that if you go back to the old days of 2019, 2-3 months lead time, is dropping down to within 30 days. So, for the normal business practice of how you react to things has been, we're having to adjust quite quickly to that, which I think, I've got a great team, and they're doing that really, really well.
Mm. Yeah, a lot's asked of everyone, isn't it? That's the thing. And I had a discussion earlier on in the series of the podcast around the fact that a lot's put on the plates of leaders, but where do the leaders go to for their opportunity to kind of vent and get their frustrations out? But you've already mentioned that you still keep a network of mentors, and I find that really uplifting to hear, because I think that's you can never really stop learning and knowing new things, can you?
No, I don't think so. I think I've been very fortunate to have had some really inspirational hospitality people in my career life.
Yeah.
If I go back to if I go back to my early Hilton days, people like Armin Schrocker and Didier Martin, with City Inn, yeah, like there's a stack load, whether it's David and Sandy Orr, Peter Manby, Simon Morpus, Lynn Hood, you kind of move that forward. And then at Doubletree with Patrick O'Connell, who was, who kind of taught me different things in that regard.
Yeah.
And then kind of, if I take those people and then wind backwards a little bit, somebody that I only worked with for a short period of time was somebody like Michael North, but then who I've reached out to well after my time with City Inn and Mint Hotels and Doubletree, even then to gain his perspective, because I've connected with him more through family links in the hospitality industry.
Mm.
And then on the other side of it is I had the opportunity to join the St. Julian Scholars through the Master Inn holders, which was a fantastic connection into a broader hotel network.
Yeah,
And
I was going to ask you about that actually. So nice segue.
yeah, thank you. I mean, for me, it came at a fantastic moment in time in my career where I was about 8 or 9 or 10 years in, and not getting stuck, was trying to figure out where I was going next and what was the next plan and how I could elevate myself into being into a next senior level, and had the opportunity to go to Cranfield, Management Business School, which is probably one of the most phenomenal experiences ever. Hard, really, really hard, and experiencing business from not just a hotel world, but from a broader network of people, from both profit and non-profit, charity led, and learning other people's perspectives about how to lead and how to manage, which was great.
Yeah.
And then through the St. Julian's and the Master Inn role, just having mentors and maybe not defined as permanent mentors, but having people you could speak to quite easily, and you could ask a single question to if you got stuck with something, so you have that learning that can come quite easily. So because somebody might have done, or that somebody's done this at another hotel before, if you're trying to do something, and you gain 10 minutes of perspective from them quite easily, so and I think that's the one thing that the hospitality network does have is that ability to be accessible and ask questions if you need advice, and I think that's that whilst I know there's this whole concept of intellectual property and things like that, I think hoteliers like to share advice quite easily.
Absolutely.
I've never been in a position where I've asked a question and somebody said to me, Grant, I'm not actually going to tell you how to do that because I don't want you to succeed, actually, because essentially that's what it would mean, So,
yeah,
I think we for the benefit of the industry, we constantly want everybody to do well. We want to constantly improve it and innovate it. And I think that for me is one of the great parts about this business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The willingness to share information, I think it's a really unique part of the industry. I would doubt that it exists in every other sector, especially when you're in theory competing with these people. But it is this word that keeps coming up. Coopetition is the word that I keep hearing.
Yeah.
Is that actually if you do help everyone who's considered to be in your competitor set, help them get to a certain level, then of course it helps you because it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you wanting to innovate, and it keeps rates in a good place as well, because you're all kind of helping. We rise together. That's Lewis Hamilton's saying, isn't it?
Correct.
And it's just good for the industry. It's very, very healthy. But I suppose that has its roots in a hospitality mentality.
Yeah.
Because it's we're still a welcoming bunch of people. Just because we do business shouldn't cut that out, because ultimately this is a people industry. Whether you're serving a guest or whether you're serving one of your team or whether you're networking with your peers, I think it's a massive win for the industry. All of that.
100% right. Yeah, completely. And I think we've needed it more than ever over the last 18 months.
Yep.
And it's come from all levels of the industry, whether it be the more formal organizations or the individuals that run restaurant companies or nightclubs or events businesses or bars. There has definitely been whilst everybody's not necessarily agree with everybody's approaches, and you can go through all the social streams to try and see what that is.
Mm.
And it's not something I really want to overly like criticize or discuss, but but we're all trying to gain the same thing. We're all trying to get the best deal for hospitality, so or get the best achievement for hospitality. And I think for me that is, we're quite uni focused in that, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely, and it all just helps things evolve. And without evolution, there's stagnation, isn't there? So
Yeah.
it's yeah, all good. There we are. We're solving problems and the
Yeah.
like. But
You're going to work right. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. But I have to say, I've passed. I've not been into the hotel, but you and I will sort that out at some point in the not too distant future, I'm sure.
Definitely.
But
Yep.
what a transformation! For those who don't know, it was originally the Radisson Blue Portman Square.
Correct. Yeah.
Uh, Phenomenal transformation, even from the outside, without having seen kind of what you've done fully on the inside, other than the pictures that that circulate the internet. But yeah, I mean, it's breathtaking.
Thank you. Look, I think the designers, the architects, and essentially the vision that the owners and the brand have had, Nobu have had for the property for the change has been very well executed throughout. And it's whilst I'm fully appreciative of the hotel that was there before and how well it did. It is a different hotel now,
Mm,
and it's we to a point when we have returning guests from the previous hotel, we're having to explain that it is a different looking hotel. It's differently laid out. It's definitely set up. The capacities are different. But more
yeah,
importantly for me is that it looks absolutely stunning from a design point of view. From the lobby, public area spaces through to the bedrooms. It really works really well, and super proud to be a part of it and to be representing the hotel and offering it to our guests to enjoy. So overall it's gone amazingly well.
yeah. London seems to have a love affair with Nobu. Obviously, it's renowned as food and beverage
Yes,
of the highest caliber. So it's London's second Nobu hotel, of course, and it's an expanding portfolio globally.
yes.
But what everybody kind of knows? Well, maybe people don't know the F&B story. But what does a Nobu hotel offer?
So from a food and beverage point, we have Nobu Restaurant, which is, the I suppose the landmark part of the Nobu brand. It's how we
Hmm.
started from going back to the 90s with Nobu-san himself, who opened up the first Nobu restaurant in New York with the support of Robert De Niro and Mayor Topia.
Yep.
Nobu-san had an amazing journey into his food offering. I'm trying to figure out how to say this in how he learned and he developed his craft. From being from Japan, being quite traditional, to going to Peru and Alaska and learning all the different ingredients and foods from those areas, to eventually opening his restaurant in LA and being then all of a sudden noticed, if that's the right word, by the residents of LA, to the celebrities, to the press, and then getting this amazing opportunity to open up Nobu restaurant in New York, which then kind of kick-started a growth in restaurants, here, and then the first international restaurant on Park Lane at the Metropolitan,
Yep.
which is still there and doing really well. So from a restaurant perspective, it is done exceptionally well, and they are. It was certainly for us when we reopened. Considering everything that was going on in the market at the moment, at that time, and even when we reopened in April, has been a fundamental part of our business success for the hotel. And
Right. Yeah.
a lot of the service cues and the style of service that we have in the hotel has been derived from that environment. And the my stakeholders are exceptionally loyal to the service and the food quality. So we had to look at how we impregnate that service style across the hotel.
Mm.
So it was really, really important. And I think, the brand is expanding. The hotel side of it is definitely growing. And, we have hotels lined up for Hamburg, for Marrakesh, and a few other places. We opened up in Chicago and Warsaw last year as well. So another two hotels during the pandemic, which is incredible considering everything that's going on. And
Yeah.
Warsaw has been amazingly successful, for a market that is, quite new for a brand such as that, and they've done amazingly well. And I'm excited for the Marrakesh opening because I think that'll be, quite an interesting place to go, with the Nobu brand. So
Yeah.
yeah, onwards and upwards in that respect.
Very exciting, and I suppose just by the very nature of the fact that it's known globally, is that you're always going to get people coming through your door for the F&B who will then see the hotel and go, "Wow, I'd like to stay here."
Correct. And I think, we have, besides Nobu Restaurant, we have an amazing bar linked to Nobu Restaurant, which, we have a great drinks program in there, and an incredible terrace outside, which gives more flexibility and option, especially now the summer hasn't been exceptionally great this year, but it's been very popular, people enjoying, preferring to be dining outdoors just with,
Yeah.
as a personal preference. And then we have a beautiful, beautiful lounge where it's the kind of place where you can just sit in the window and watch the village of Marylebone go by, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
great breakfast, nice coffee, snacks, glass of wine in the evening, kind of thing. A definite change in atmosphere to Nobu Restaurant, a little bit more chilled out and relaxed. And then as I mentioned earlier, we are launching our Nobu Ballroom. It's the first Nobu Ballroom within Nobu Hotels. I genuinely believe it's one of the strongest ballroom concepts and products in London. Technologically, excellently set up, beautifully designed space. So, it can accommodate both, your conference functions and events to really good, high quality social weddings and social events within that space.
Yeah.
So, from an offering point of view, I think it's a perfectly sized product. We have 249 bedrooms, so we're not super big, we're not too small. We can accommodate all of our events guests within the business if we need to. Have a good suite offering for guests that prefer a slightly more upgraded living accommodation. So the overall design and fit out of the property has been quite well considered for this location and for the market that we're hoping to come and visit us as soon as we are able to travel and be more open and more available, if
Yeah.
that's the right word, as compared to where we are right now.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, no, I'm super excited to come in and have a look, and look forward to seeing it in the flesh, as it were, and wish you continued success in
Thank you
there
very
and
much.
an upward trajectory of business. Can't let you go without asking you if you do have any stories that you can share with us from your career.
Ooh, funny stories, interesting stories. I think, Phil, it's a tricky one. I'm gonna have to think about this a little bit. I don't know if I've got anything that comes to mind straight away. That's the tricky part. They kind of like all merge into one, and then I kind of have to avoid some. So
Yeah.
let me pass just for now.
No worries. No, that's fine. It's an overriding theme of this. You kind of, what happens in hospitality stays in hospitality. All I can say to anybody who's listening is that you there's never a dull moment. There's always funny and quirky things happening. Always
Yeah,
opportunities to learn.
correct. I mean, I think I think for me, it's the stories of there's the funny stories and the quirky stories that I think people love to hear, the gossip and that kind of thing. But for me, what I really like about the industry is and the stories is when you're able to, you have guests that come and stay with you and they become your regulars and you get to know them and they become your biggest brand endorsers, so all your
Yeah.
hotel endorsers. And, and in the short time we've been reopened, if you say from May, we have a smaller group of guests that have become our biggest sales managers, if I could call them that.
Yeah.
The amount of guests that they have essentially brought to us has been exceptional. And for me, that is those are the kind of things that I like to share and talk about, because I think those guests are, if you have that happening, then you know that things are starting to really work well.
Yeah.
And of course you enjoy the fun stuff that happens everywhere and in the background, but I kind of want to keep those, as something for later on, when I can share them without fear of
Yes.
of compromise.
No, that's fine. There's a book in every person who works in
Oh,
hospitality over a
yeah,
certain number of years, isn't there?
exactly. Yeah,
And maybe I need to start rewording the questions to success stories as well, because that's a success story right there,
yeah. I
And
think, from a success story point of view, I think for me would be to say that, the getting to, to be able to open a hotel like this in this kind of climate, with everything that's going on, has been for me one of the proudest times
yeah,
that I could have, and the team that I've had around me to do that have been exceptional, so that's that for me is something to kind of talk about, and I think, the thing with this industry is you will gain, friendship through colleagues. And at the time you might not see it as a friendship, but it's always like 2 years later, when you're maybe not working with somebody anymore, you've done something different, that you see them as friends more than colleagues. And that's
yeah,
a transitional shift. And I think that's why, that's what's really great about this business, is that it's not always transactional. There's a lot of emotion tied up into it.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely, and I think the that team element. You're right. I mean, I think back to my own time in operations. I don't speak to a lot of the people that I worked with years and years and years ago on a frequent basis, but rest assured that as soon as we reconnect, there's a special bond. There's something that you can't put a price on, that you develop, because you kind of you both achieve and fail together,
correct. Yeah.
and that's a special thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, final question:
Okay.
what would you say to someone who was contemplating a career in hospitality?
I would say that it will be one of the most rewarding industries that you can join. From a career development point of view, you can be incredibly successful if you really want to be successful, and you can progress as quickly as you want to progress. And if you have the will and want to do really, really well. And I think, it's one of the few industries that allows you that capacity and route to be able to do that.
Yeah,
The amount of people that I know that don't have, significant qualifications behind their name or whatever it might be, that have become very, very senior leaders, or not even leaders, but just really successful in their own businesses. Not even, not like a big multi-site corporate or whatever it might be. They might just be exceptional bar runners, or restaurateurs, or coffee shop owners and things like that. And I look at those, those people that are, they've become really successful. And it's not just financial. They're recognized as important people within our business, just by their actions and what they do.
yeah,
And I think that's what's great about this industry.
yeah. Absolutely. Bring your personality and your work ethic, and we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. No, and I mean, there's so many elements to it, as you've just highlighted there as well. I mean, your career journey is, one to a hotel general manager, but there are exponential amounts of roles to be done
Yeah,
underneath and sideways and above that, and so yeah,
I
and
agree.
actually now the opportunity to progress is phenomenal.
I think so. And I think and just on that, there is, remember, as I said earlier, my goal was to be a general manager. But
Mm,
I think as the industry has evolved somewhat, that now there are more roles which are seen as specialisms, which you can be incredible at,
yeah,
and you'll be hired for your specialism and do really, really well in that. Where, so, whether it be a director of F&B, or, people in culture or sales or marketing or commercial revenue, or, engineering and technical services, because as things have become more elevated in certain roles and certain positions, you can do really, really well if you find your niche within this business. So it doesn't have to be the classic old route of I'm going to be success in a hotel is being a general manager, because it doesn't necessarily need to be that anymore. You can do other things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you're really well remunerated as you start climbing the ranks. Like most industries, the entry level is you're not going to be paid the best in the world, but at the same time, once you've climbed the ranks, which you can do quickly, soon it starts becoming interesting.
Correct. Yeah. And look, I think on that, just from a business climate point of view, I think the entry level roles will change in the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
I think there will be a shift upwards, mainly because of the recruitment challenge that we're going through at the moment. But to your point is that you can do well for yourself, as you go through the progressionary changes.
Yeah.
Sometimes
absolutely.
needs a bit of patience, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think that's something that sometimes is not quite there, but it will come. So
you get the real learning with the patience
yeah.
as well. God, I'm just a walking merch board today with these quotes. But no, thank you very much, Grant. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And as I say, I wish you all the very best for the future.
Thank you very much, Phil, and thank you very much for letting me come on to the call.
My pleasure. Take care. Cheers now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And there we have it. A wonderful chat with Grant, who really has built an enviable career so far. I've also now been into the hotel and had a look around and can confirm it really is beautiful. I wish Grant and his team fantastic success. We'll be back next Wednesday with more amazing career stories from hospitality, but until then, don't forget to like, share and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice.